If you pass through the quiet Suffolk village of Woolpit today, you will find a peculiar wrought iron sign standing in the center of town. It depicts two small children staring out at the viewer with bright green skin. The sign commemorates an event recorded during the chaotic 12th century reign of King Stephen. During the autumn harvest, local agricultural workers were cutting crops near the deep trenches dug around the village to trap wolves. Out of these pits climbed two terrified children. The villagers noted three anomalies: an unrecognizable language, strange clothing, and skin that was completely green. This account was recorded with striking sobriety by two highly respected scholars of the era, William of Newburgh and the Cistercian abbot Ralph of Coggeshall. Because serious historians documented this as an actual event, we are left to investigate what physical or metaphorical reality crawled out of the Suffolk soil 800 years ago. According to the chronicles, the villagers took the children in, but they refused all normal food. They were starving, nearing death, until they discovered a supply of raw broad beans, which they tore open and consumed voraciously. The young boy, who was already sickly, died shortly after their discovery. His sister survived. Over several months, she adapted to a standard diet, slowly lost her green hue, and learned to speak English. Once she could communicate, she explained her origins. She claimed she and her brother came from St. Martin's Land, a subterranean world of perpetual twilight where the sun never rose, and where everything and everyone was green. 17th century authors and modern ufologists later seized on this description of a twilight realm. They argued the children were extraterrestrial visitors, or beings who had slipped upward from inside a hollow earth. Taking the girl's story literally forces the event into the realm of science fiction. However, applying a forensic historical lens to the details reveals a much more grounded and tragic possibility. In the 12th century, Eastern England hosted a heavy presence of Flemish immigrants and mercenaries. In 1173, rebel forces relying on Flemish fighters were slaughtered by royal troops at the Battle of Fornham, just a few miles from Woolpit. Surviving refugees and newly orphaned children were forced to scatter and hide in the dense surrounding forests. To the isolated English agricultural workers of Woolpit, a pair of lost orphans speaking a Flemish dialect would sound entirely alien. The green skin can also be explained clinically. Severe malnutrition and iron deficiency can trigger a condition called hypochromic anemia, which medical literature historically referred to as the green sickness or chlorosis. In patients suffering from this condition, the red blood cells lack adequate hemoglobin. This deficiency drains the normal color from the cells, leaving the skin with a distinct pale greenish tint. Under this lens, the visitors from another world were likely displaced war orphans. Their profound trauma, incomprehensible language, and physical starvation made them unrecognizable to the locals who found them. A separate historical theory suggests the chroniclers were writing a theological allegory, warning against the Cathars, a heretical sect threatening Christendom at the time. The Cathars maintained a famously strict vegan diet, a practice that aligns with the children's absolute refusal to eat anything but beans. Cathar believers frequently hid in underground dens, much like the wolf pits. Furthermore, their theology rejected the physical incarnation of Christ. The girl's description of a twilight world away from the sun operates as a metaphor for living away from the Son of God. Even their skin color fits the allegory. In medieval literature, being entirely green was often used as a literary metaphor for a soul saturated in heretical sin. If this text is a cipher, the chroniclers were using the concept of an alien to represent ideological threats, turning the story into a tool for medieval propaganda. The surviving girl eventually assimilated fully into English society. Historical records suggest she took employment in a knight's household and later married a man in the coastal town of King's Lynn. The true physical identities of the brother and sister who crawled out of the earth that fateful day are permanently lost to the soil of East Anglia. For 800 years, these children have served as a historical Rorschach test, a warning of heresy for monks, a refugee symbol for modern historians, and proof of extraterrestrials for ufologists. The Green Children persist in our cultural memory as a perfect embodiment of humanity's eternal struggle to understand and categorize the other.